couple months. So don't have a lot. I think we have 5 updates and just a very small handful of new cases. So I've got a video that I showed you before. I'm going to try to show you again. And then there's another video, newer video that I want to show you that you haven't seen before. So let's jump into our updates. So again, these you've seen these before. They weren't completed. They're now completed. So case number 140025-U took place on December 13th of 2024 in Tamarack in Aiken County. FB1 was a flyby. Jamie was assigned to it. And let's see what Jamie came out. She's one of our newer field investigators. So here's some of the pictures that were associated with it. And you've seen this before, so we'll kind of zip through it. So we close this case, disposition of identified other. IFO is identified flying object, and disposition is identified other, means we know what it is, but it's not man-made phenomenon, not natural phenomenon. So and so here's just a segment of what Jamie had to say. On December 13th to the 14th was also the peak of the Geminids meteor shower, although this is not likely to be relevant fact because these meteors would have had an origin point at the opposite side of the sky from where the witness made his observation. I do believe that this was Venus that he saw, or that the witness saw. The location of Venus does appear to line up very well with the location of the light object the witness described seeing, both at the nighttime, at the time of the initial sighting, and the time when he indicated he lost sight of the object. I am certain that Venus would have been very noticeable when looking to the southwest and would have stood out as being much more visible than the stars. The above findings and conclusions were emailed to the witness. No response received. And actually, I want to back up real quick, too, because remember, I talked about Venus before. We back up here. Look at the time, 5:40 p.m. So, December 13th. Do we have a lot of sun? No. So having the sun having recently gone down at 5:40, that makes sense. It kind of supports it. That definitely could be Venus. So I think she did a very good job with that. So Jamie, thank you so much for that work on that. We certainly appreciate having you on board, and we appreciate what you did with this case. So thank you. Case number 139094-U took place on 10/26 of 2024, a flyby in St. Paul. Bill McNeff was assigned to this one. So frisbee made of lights, solid lights, not individual ones. Let's see what Bill McNeff came up on this. I'll spend more time on the newer cases, but just recapping these older ones. So completed IFO natural phenomenon. So witness did not respond to attempts to discuss a sighting by phone. The witness gave enough data, particularly in his detailed description, to conclude that the light he reported with its fading out was most likely the aurora borealis disposition IFO natural phenomenon. So again, IFO, identified flying object, Bill McNeff. And one thing I want to point out about this disposition, because when you're a field investigator and you've completed a case and you've got to decide how you want to close the case out, sometimes it's a struggle to decide which disposition is the right one for your case, because there's another one. Insufficient data is a common one, and insufficient data is common when you can't speak to the witness or the witness doesn't respond. So a lot of field investigators, I think, will jump to insufficient data right off the bat. But look what Bill said. There was enough data in the detailed description that Bill had to check what his confidence level was, that he knew what it was. So I actually would commend Bill for this, because he didn't just kind of do the knee-jerk reaction. Can't talk to witness, insufficient data. He was able to get enough out of that to reasonably conclude that this was actually a natural phenomenon. So thank you for that, Bill. I thought it was a good work and a good example of how the one disposition doesn't fit all, and you got to sometimes really weigh things and check things out to what makes the most sense. So I want to thank you for that, Bill. We appreciate that. Like I said, Bill's got all this experience and stuff. So yeah, that's a great example of that. Case number 139155-U took place on October 30th of 2024. Rectangle was seen over Moose Lake. Notice rectangular blue-green glowing object moving across the dark. At the time, it was assigned to Peter Collins. Let's see what Peter found out. So he completed an unknown UAV. So Peter interviewed the witness, and he does believe he did see something. So his disposition was unknown UAV. So unknown unidentified aerial vehicle. So that's what he came with. So Peter, thank you for your work on that. Case number 138369-U took place on 9/6/2024 at 10 p.m. A sphere was seen in Winnebago. Orbs glowing, moving, abrupt turns, and pop in and out of space in a blink. So Bill McNeff was also working on this one. So let's see. He completed IFO man-made object, so identified flying object, but it's a man-made object. So even if we've got IFOs, you see how there's different categories for IFOs. So and UFOs, there's a lot of them have even hoaxes. There's 2 different categories for hoaxes. So it's really, you got to look at all these different dispositions. So field investigator really kind of has to look at all this stuff and make do some good reasoning and deduction. So Bill says, there's no good reason to suppose that the video of one white light and one red light are not standard FAA lights on an ordinary aircraft. Metadata of the video should be checked for the exact time and place. Pending that, this position is IFO. And that's another good example. Because I've talked about this before. Just because we've completed a case or closed a case, the case is never actually closed in the sense that we're always open to getting more data, new data, better data. So in this case, if literally if Bill gets more metadata from the video, we can kind of do some validation against that. So for right now, he thinks it's an airplane. And to say, there's just one white light and one red light, and you can't see the green one for whatever reason, that sounds perfectly legit to me. It's a good example of really making distinctions and stuff. So thank you for that again, Bill. You'd think Bill was paying me for all his advertising. He's not. He's not paying me anything for that. He just does that good a job. I got to give him some props for that. So. All right, case number 137920-U took place on June 20th of 2024. A sphere was seen in Garrison. Bright light orb suddenly appeared, then left at a high rate of speed, and then disappeared in the clouds. Were thin, not heavy enough to hide the object. And I think this is the one I've got the video. I'll show you this one. You've seen it before, but I'll show you the video anyway. So how did I close this out? So disposition, unknown UAV, so unknown unidentified aerial vehicle. I put a lot in this findings, so I'm just giving you segments of what I found. So the witness seemed genuine and sincere. He had a military background. He had other sightings in the past, but he never reported them. The bright object in the video that appears to be the sun is actually the moon. And I did some checking with some global maps and stuff, and it is actually the moon, even though it'll look like the sun. And the bright object on the lake is actually a boat, according to the witness. There were only 2 flights in the area around the time of the sighting. One was shortly before it, and the other one was like kind of significantly after it. But the object in the video seems to be flying from southeast to northeast, according to the map stuff I looked at. This does not match with the directions of either of the planes. This sighting simply does not match up with the 2 planes that were in the area at the time, and I can't account for any other weather phenomenon or natural phenomenon that could have created the images in the video. So I close this as an unknown UAV. So I'm going to see if I can share that with you too. So sometimes switching things to share can be a little bit tricky. So let's see if do I have it up here? Yeah, here we go. So we can get this. I'm going to share this. And Bill, can you nod if you're seeing this? Bill McNeff, can you nod if you're seeing? Yeah, okay. So here's the video. If you have your sound on, I don't think there's no F-bombs in this one. This is actually clean of F-bombs. We're good here. But yeah, that thing that looks like the sun, that's the moon. That thing on the lake is actually a boat. And so you just see it moving across there. And again, the 2 planes that went by at the time were they weren't in that area. They weren't at that time exactly. So, and I'm sure you saw it, but I'll run it back again if you want to take another look at it. So, and it seems too slow for a comet. It seems to be in the atmosphere and it seems to disappear into the clouds. So yeah, just not sure what that is. So I'm gonna stop share. So that is that one. And we'll go back to, all right. And Bill, can you nod if you're seeing my What's Up in Minnesota again? You are. Okay, cool. All right, I think that's the last of our updates, I think. So now our new cases. Okay, so now we got our new cases out. So we're going to look at our new cases. So our overview of new cases. So we've had 5 cases submitted since last month. So the submission date ranges January 11th, the date of our last meeting, through yesterday. So since that, during that time, we've had 5 new cases come in. So now the date range of the sightings are from December 1st of 2012. So we got cases, and actually 2 of the cases, one's 2012, one's 2017. The other ones are fairly current, and it goes up through January 31st of this year. So we didn't have any cases of interest. There's 2 ERT cases, and some of you are new here, so I want to take a second to talk about that. So ERT stands for Experiencer Resource Team. I mentioned that Jared and Bill are on the Experiencer Resource Team. So those cases are a little bit different. The person may or may not have had a sighting of a craft. The person may or may not have had a sighting of an entity. They may just have some things strange that are going on in their life, and they may suspect it's related to the UFO phenomenon, but they're not certain. So they submit the cases to MUFON to take a look at it. Where most of our cases, we try to get them closed within 90 days. ERT cases, they'll close them within 90 days too, but the ERT teams, they understand that their interactions and communications with these witnesses may go on for several months or even several years because they're looking for resources. The resources might be hypnotherapists, or they may want to discuss things and just resources to help them understand what's going on with their experiences. And MUFON has put a higher level of let's call security or anonymity on the ERT cases. So we got 5 cases in. 2 of them are ERT cases. So I can only show you the 3 that are not ERT cases. So I can't show you anything about the ERT cases at all, other than let you know that they came in. But yeah, I can show you that my standard stuff on the other 3 cases that were submitted. So the cases that were submitted, 2 of them were listed. The shape was listed as an other. And as I described the other, the Starship Enterprise. If you think of that, if you were to describe that, could you describe it as a sphere? Not really. A disc? What kind of part of it? A cylinder? Well, kind of parts of it, but it wouldn't fit under any of those cleanly, but it would fit under others. So if it's got a shape that just doesn't really fit into our many categories of blimp, teardrop, all that stuff, we do have that other category. We had one sphere reported. One they said it was just unknown, and one they just didn't list anything for the shape. So that's what that all is. So valet classification. So that is a way we start categorizing what people are seeing and reporting to us. Because when an organization is doing investigations or researching something, what they start doing is looking for patterns and similarities in things. And that's what was developed, started back in Project Blue Book. Jacques Vallée, who was J. Allen Hynek's assistant, um, came up with these classifications. So it's different ways of identifying and grouping sightings. So we're going to see one AN3 case, and AN stands for anomaly. It's an anomaly, so anomaly of the third kind. So, and MUFON defines an anomaly of the third kind as anomalies with associated entities. This could include reports of ghosts, yetis, and other instances of cryptozoology, as well as elves and spirits. So that's an anomaly of a third kind. So we've got one of those. And again, if it's an ERT case, I can't show you, but I'll tell you what, at least what the description is. So we've had two CE1s come in. CE1. So CE is a close encounter. So two close encounters of the first kind. So MUFON defines a close encounter of the first kind as class of objects. So it's an object now seen on the ground or at a short distance to the observer. So close encounter of the first kind. We've got one CE3 come in. So CE3, so close encounter of the third kind. Like the movie, that's where they got the name for the movie, was a close encounter of the third kind, a valet classification that Jacques Vallée and J. Allen Hynek developed in Project Blue Book and is now being adopted and adapted by MUFON. So, and that CE3 case, that one is an ERT case. So you won't be seeing it. You won't be seeing any of the details in the CE3 case. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. We want to make sure we're protecting our witnesses and stuff. So, and one FB1. So FB is a flyby. So one flyby of the first kind. MUFON defines a flyby of the first kind as simply a sighting of a UFO flying by in the sky. And this is the most frequently category reported. So you're going to see one FB1. So those are the 5 valet classifications. I'm going to show you 3 of those 5 because I can't show you anything about the 2 ERT cases. Let's jump into those 3 and see what we got. And speaking of, see what we got. Yeah, we'll jump into those cases. Okay. So case number 140575-U. This took place on January 12th of this year at 10:34 p.m. The shape was just unknown. So maybe they didn't see the craft, but it was just unknown. Classification FB1. So this is that flyby of the first kind we are just talking about. In Minneapolis, a bright light moving west by northwest across sky, accompanied by sound and vibration. This is just a segment. They had a pretty good description. On the night of January 12th of 2025, a peculiar and intensely bright light was captured moving swiftly across the sky by a security camera. Security camera. That's an important key. That's a key point. So keep that in mind. Security camera located just southwest of downtown Minneapolis. The footage revealed an anomaly that raises intriguing questions. We assigned it to Steve Hero. He's completed it already. So we're going to get his completion. But first, I'm going to show you the video because we do have a video on this one. So this is your second video. Second, I think, last video you'll be seeing today. But so here's the video. It's pretty obvious. You'll see it pretty much. It's kind of toward the center. Actually out to the right. You can see it now. It's just coming up over the houses and the trees over to the right. See, it disappears for a second. It actually disappears for a second behind a pretty small branch. I don't know if it's there. I mean, it's obviously going to disappear behind that big one. See that small branch that disappeared? He's completed it. Information only. Remember the camera? So since there's no witness, I had to deduce from the video. First of all, when slowed down, the object can be seen to emit faint flashes similar to aircraft anti-collision lights. Second, the object seems to increase in altitude as it moves from right to left. The location of the camera and the direction that it is pointing indicates that the object is coming from the direction of Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. And finally, The time and flight path coincide with that of a SkyWest flight from MSP, Minneapolis, St. Paul, to Minot, North Dakota. The noises and vibration that set off the camera are unrelated to what is on the video. Synopsis, IFO, information only. Again, he can't interview the witness. He can interview the owners of the camera, but he can't interview the camera. So that's information only. So Steve, thank you for your fantastic job on that. Steve is always so fast on the ones. Case number 140750-U took place on December 1st of this year at 1 a.m. A sphere was seen at Valley classification CE1, close encounter of the first kind. Remember, object on the ground. So in Walnut Grove, or at least close distance, Walnut Grove. A blizzard black object was in the center of the road as we approached about 10 miles per hour, slowing from about 20 miles per hour. We both had a lapse of memory time. I loved their detailed description, so I put the whole thing in there. So this is all they put in there. So on our way home in a blizzard, we saw a roughly 4-foot roundish, but not perfectly round object in the center of the road. We go to about 10 miles per hour, both looking directly at this Vanta black thing. I'm not sure if Vanta is a typo or this is exactly what they put in there. So no shine from our headlights, no movement from the intense winds. We are driving nearly in the center of the gravel road, and it is clear we are going to either need to stop or are going to hit this thing or something. So we were both just staring intensely at it, then poof, it's like I just woke up from a dream. And he looks at me at the same time, just as confused as I was, and tells me he feels like he just woke up from a dream. And I tell him the same, and we try to recollect what we saw and what happened, but can't at all. We make it to Slayton and go to B. And literally, that's exactly, it ends just like that. They didn't finish whatever their thought was. That's how it ends in our database. So Bill McNeff is working on this. And hey, get off his back already. Bill's a very important guy. I mean, Bill's got a lot of things he's doing. He's working on the case. He'll get it done. Bill, get it done. Just give him some time. I have faith in Bill. I trust Bill. Bill's going to complete this case. So don't you worry about that. So it's having a little fun there. So yeah. So we will revisit this case once it's completed. And we'll see what Bill finds out. I love the object. It reminds me, the object of the road. It brings me back to that other one from 1963, the Minnesota object in the road. The Long Prairie tin can UFO case. It reminds me of that. So that's interesting. We've got these UFOs landing right in the middle of the road that people are driving up to and having to do something with them. And then the poof thing. Is there abduction going on here? We'll see if Bill will get to the bottom of this. Case number 140914-U took place on January 31st of this year, 7:10 p.m. Shape was other. So again, it's not clear what that is. A close encounter of the first kind, CE1, close encounter of the first kind, in Nashwauk. If you don't know where Nashwauk is, Itasca County. So in Itasca, think of the falls up there, upper northern part of Minnesota. Their short description looked like a satellite until it turned around. I included their full description here too because I thought it was interesting. 7 p.m. Friday night, January 31st. My wife and I were sitting in our hot tub on our deck outside faces the lake. I was looking in the sky and it was a beautiful clear night, no wind. I was watching satellites heading in different directions. I was telling my wife, there goes another satellite. This one was directly overhead heading south. I kept watching it, and just before it made it across the lake, about a quarter mile, it turned and started heading toward us. Same altitude, same path, but as it got closer, flashing red and green and white lights. It was completely silent. As it approached, it was directly overhead, and I could make out the shape. It just had wings, but they were glowing underneath, and all the edges of the wings were brighter white. I just wish I had my phone on me to video this. I've been living on this lake all my life, and I've never seen anything like this. So no video, good description. Jared has, and this one just came in, I think. So Jared's assigned to this. He'll be working on it. And when they're just assigned like that, a lot of times they're given to like either me or Jared before we actually pass it off to the investigator. Oh, you know what? It's up north though. Jared probably will do this one because Jared and Anna like to take on our northern Minnesota cases. So yeah, so interesting. It's assigned. When Jared completes it, we'll revisit this one again. We'll let you know what Jared finds out. And that's what's up in Minnesota. And I think I'm doing a good time.